Dear Clash Guards, I confess my emotions have been a mess. Cause you changed everything we ever knew. From witches to poison and the Queen Walk too. Whoa, I've been wrong, I was wrong. Been a town hall night, way too long. Getting hogs and Valkyries. I'll push that button and believe in you again.
Welcome to episode 105 of Pineapples and Thorns. I'm Kat, and T is with me here today. Welcome,
Hello.
T. How are you today?
Hello. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm good. How about you?
I'm excellent. It's another glorious day here in Manitoba, Canada. Sun is shining, snow is melting.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask, is it still snowing?
Well, you never know what tomorrow will bring. It's been off and on here, but I think it's going to get up into close to the 20 temperature, which is Celsius, of course. So that's like summertime shorts weather here. So
yeah, and over in New York, we've experienced 30-degree days and 80-degree days. That's in Fahrenheit.
Oh,
sorry. And just like the last week and a half, so it's been a bit of a wild ride.
a little bit of a yo-yo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump into some CFF news, courtesy of Darth Yoda.
Hey, thanks, Kat. We got a number of things to cover this week in the CFF news, and I will get the most important one out of the way first. So, despite my best efforts to extinguish it, Bananarama has apparently returned back to the CFF server. I don't know where this came from, who started it, or what's going on, but all of a sudden there is about a billion banana memes being posted in the main chat of the CFF server. So if that's your thing, make sure you guys go and check it out. All right, so up to now for some real news. We had some CWL results that were actually pretty awesome in the CFF this week that I wanted to cover. So first, we actually had two of our clans promote back into C1, which is quite an accomplishment. I know that we've done it in SOG, so I know just how hard it is. But big congratulations to both the Rated and Brits on Tour for making it into Champs 1. Just a super great job, guys. I hope you're all as proud as I am. And then we also had some clans that actually promoted into Champs 3. And I know these two teams have been trying for months. So big congratulations to both Shiny Gemeralds and Hanshot First for promoting finally up into Champs 3. What a huge accomplishment for those guys. All right, up next, I actually covered this in the last CFF news that I did, but SOG, we actually did complete our scrimmage with the Rated. It was without incident or problems. We were doing a 15v15 just prior to CWL, and it was really just kind of for practice for both teams. And it wouldn't be the Rated or SOG if we didn't have some bragging rights thrown in there. But we had some bases that had some holes in it and things like that, so it wasn't exactly a smooth war, but we did make it happen, and it was a ton of fun. The Rated did end up edging out SOG. I think it was by like 1 star, but it was super close and a lot of fun. And I think it's something that we're actually going to make a tradition out of and do next month as well. All right, and then finally we have the Clone Wars. This is actually coming up pretty quick. It's going to be on May the 4th. And the premise of this is that you must use the same army that on your second attack that was used against you on the first. So this is a lot of fun. I know people get really creative. They like to try to make people use goofy armies. So it's super fun. If you haven't signed up yet, make sure you do so soon because the signups are going to be closing very shortly, and you'll miss your opportunity. So get signed up. And that's all I've got. So back to you and back to Kat and T. Thanks, guys.
And thanks for that, Yoda. So we have a lot to talk about today. There's been just a few things going on in Clash of Clans.
Just one or two,
just a little bit. We've got, the March update and some April stuff. There, of course, we have the Yeeters group. We've got a collaboration with the WWE, which is amazing. I think that's a fantastic thing that we'll talk about. And some new skins and scenery. So what are you thinking? Do you like the WWE collaboration?
So here's the thing. I never got into the WWE as a kid. Like there was a little time period where it was Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, and I think Triple H was also in that kind of time frame. And like hilariously, I drive past one of the WWE headquarters like every time I go to see a friend in Connecticut. It's kind of hilarious that I've never actually gone to a live event, and I found out recently that one of my friends was like a huge fan of it, but it's never been my jam. So it's like I do appreciate what they're doing. I think it's really cool, but it's not really my thing, if that makes
Right.
sense. What
Yeah,
about you?
totally.
How are you feeling about it?
I really like it. Like, I'm not a huge wrestling fan per se, but I know, my dad was a big
Mhm.
wrestling fan. He would watch it on the weekends. But I think they've done a really good job with the characters and the
Mhm.
animations. The scenery is really cool. I did buy two of the skins. There was the
Which
Warden
ones?
one and the
Oh,
Queen
okay.
one. I thought
Okay.
those were amazing.
So
Um,
wait, I have a question about the Queen one because I haven't actually seen it in game, and I didn't look at the video for it. So I know she picks up a chair, but
mhm.
what is the arrow? Is she throwing a chair?
She is throwing a chair, and the animation is so cool. I know it's just my mind, but I'm convinced that the chair is doing more damage than this arrow ever could.
I
And
mean, obviously, it's bigger. It has to do more damage.
yeah,
That's
it
actually
seems like
funny.
it hits harder, you know?
Yeah, I might actually pick up a skin for the first time in a long time. At like that Undertaker one for the Warden is real good. I think they
Yeah.
did a real good job on that one. I was looking at that the other day and I was like, oh, that's way closer and way more difficult of a decision than I've had to make about skins in forever for
Well,
Supercell.
and
So
I haven't purchased a skin or a scenery in a long time, simply
mhm,
because, with the equipment and everything, there's so many other things to spend your money on in game, right?
right, yeah. As soon as I started buying the event pass regularly, I kind of stopped buying
Mhm.
the visuals because I was like, you know what? I was probably spending on average about $15 a month, between Gold Pass and picking up one or two skins or one or two sceneries,
Mhm.
per release. And I was like, well, now I'm giving them on average about $10 a month, and I'm not really getting anything fun for it. So like, do I want to add another $10 purchase? And I think we talked about this the last time where I was like, a lot of times they were able to sucker me into buying skins was because all your little spawned barbarians and archers
Mhm.
also dressed up, and those were the ones where I was like, oh, I have to get that. And now we don't really have that aspect anymore. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've gotten a
Yeah.
skin, and now I'm like, oh, some of these are pretty good.
Yeah, and I know when we talk about using the barbarian skin with all his little barbs running around with flaming swords and what have you,
Mhm.
I do really miss that aspect of it. Sometimes I'm tempted to just put the barb puppet on just so I can see those again.
Now, here's the thing. The action figure puppet for the Archer Queen should have the same outfit as the WWE
Oh
skin
my
for the Archer
god.
Queen. Wouldn't
Now
that be amazing?
that would be so amazing. And I would use the Archer puppet if that
Yeah,
was the case.
I would immediately buy the skin. I would not have this. I would not have the self control to resist.
Can you
I
imagine?
immediately purchase.
Yeah, and I didn't buy the scenery, but
Mhm.
I'm thinking, what they should have done is made some kind of a bundle with a slightly reduced
Right.
price. If you bought everything in a package, you get some kind of a discount.
Yeah, that's something that I keep thinking is that we get these $10 skins, and it's like every month you are essentially putting out $37 US of
Hmm.
uh, you know, cosmetics, and then there's no like, exactly like you said, there should be a deal. There should be like even if it's not that big of a discount, even if it's 24.99 or whatever,
Hmm.
it would incentivize people to be like, okay, well, I already got the gold pass skin, quote unquote for free. It's not free, but it's you're not buying the gold pass because you want the skin. You're getting the skin as a bonus.
Hmm.
Well, now I want a matching set for all my other heroes. Well, give it to us, like let us spend the money, but at least give us some sort of nod at a discount.
Yeah, a perceived
Mhm.
value. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I'm sitting here. I've got three of the skins. Right, I've got the Minion Prince
Mhm.
one, the
Mhm.
Queen, and the Warden. And there's the RC and the King Cody skin. And I'm like, do I shell out the rest of the money to get the rest of the set? Because the skins are $13.99 in Canada
Oh, wow.
plus tax.
Yeesh.
So it's just it's going to be one of those decisions. I may or may not shell it out. I'm not too sure yet.
I mean, you gotta get at least one more so you can have a matching set.
This is
right?
true.
This is what always gets me is that one of the reasons I haven't switched my skins in forever is because, while an individual skin in a package might appeal to me, I have matching sets from the past, back
Mhm.
when some of the skins would be $6 and some of them would be $9, and
Yeah.
one would come with the gold pass. We only had 4 heroes at the time, so it's like I don't want to not have matching skins, but I also don't want to have to spend like $50 to get matching skins. So,
Well, that's just it. Do you remember when they put out the magic set?
mhm,
Like, there was no doubt in my mind. I bought the entire set. It was like sold as a package. I think it was like
mhm,
40 some odd dollars Canadian. But to this day, it's still my favorite set because I can see them when they're moving
mhm.
around on the screen.
That's
They
the
all
one with the
match.
white glowing
Yeah.
eyes, right? I
Yeah.
run that 99% of the time.
Yeah. I love
That's
that
my
set.
favorite one. Yeah.
All time favorite.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a few other individual skins that I like, but the magic set as a package is the
Mhm.
one for me.
Yeah, because they've come out with some very special ones here and there, the champion skins and what have you. But
Mhm.
yeah, you always pick those up. But yeah, definitely something for them to think about is going forward. If they do another collaboration with somebody, it would be good to, you can buy them individually, but hey, here's this set deal.
Right. Yeah, or even if it was just something like you buy all of the skins and you get a discount on the scenery,
Yeah,
like just something.
yeah,
Just toss us a little tiny bone every once in a while, and I think they'd get more out of it.
yeah. Well, it does seem like they're very slow to pick up on some of
Mhm.
these little incentives that other companies have really leaped on.
That's the funny thing, though, is that they've done them before, and then they stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because there's a different team at the helm, or if they have some secret numbers that we don't have access to, which they do, but maybe their secret numbers are telling them something that's not obvious. Maybe I don't know. There's got to be a reason why they're not doing it when they've done it in the past, because we know it's possible in their system. So why
Hmm.
wouldn't they otherwise?
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
All right. So also this month we've got some temporary troops to go with
Uh-huh.
the event. We have the
Hmm.
giant, yeah,
Boo.
Kane,
Yay.
and the disarmer. And
Oh, that's a big one.
that one, I have so much trouble with this name because I keep calling it the demolisher or the
Hmm.
devastator.
Hmm. That's
It's the
what it does to
disarmer.
bases. So.
Exactly. So the giant
Mhm.
housing space is 50. It targets ground and defenses, and you get that from Town Hall 3 and up. Kane character housing space is 75 and targets the Town Hall, also Town Hall 3 and up. The disarmer takes 60 housing space and targets defenses, and you get that from Town Hall 6 and up. So it's nice that they've made it available from the lower town halls. Definitely just a smidge overpowered.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
I
And
I think
there's a
it's
nerf coming.
funny. Yeah. I think the funny thing is any one of these troops released individually would have probably been just completely busted and taking over the meta. But the
Mhm.
fact that we have 3 different options, like I don't even think the giant is that great. It's probably like a fun, usable troop, but the fact that the Kane and the disarmer came out with it kind of makes the giant almost irrelevant. But by the time this episode comes out, yeah, as as Kat has just mentioned, they're already having to nerf all of them, which
Mhm.
is kind of wild. But like, can we talk real quick how like the giant is getting, a 4-ish% nerf on DPS and hit points.
Mhm.
The Kane is getting about a 5%, only to its final level. So only at Town Hall 17 is getting like a 5% nerf to its DPS. And those I don't think are real nerfs. Those are like irrelevant, like they're not going to impact the meta or the usability of these troops virtually at all. Especially because one of the ways that people are using the Kane is just walking it to a town hall with invisibility
Yep.
spells. So like, what does it matter? None of that's going to change. But the disarmer, on the other hand, is getting huge nerfs to like every single level, and the Town Hall 17 version is getting nearly a 20% damage reduction as well as a 10% hit point reduction. So that
Yeah.
might actually be a difference maker. So I don't know which one you've been using. I've been using the disarmor a lot, but I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on if you think this nerf is going to do anything, if it's enough, or if it's going to impact the strategy that you've found so far.
I'm doing the one where I have 4 disarmers, and so I use them to sort of take out some defenses to make a funnel, and then I send KANE in with the invis to the town hall, and you know, I have the giant puppet on my queen, so it just
What level were you able to get your action figure to?
I think I'm up at level 20.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was curious to hear your thoughts on the action figure
Um,
equipment.
I'm enjoying it. It's because you hit the ability if she's coming under fire, you hit that ability, and then he pops out and starts tanking for her. It's really I've noticed a bit of a difference. So I've replaced the mirror. So I've got the healer puppet and the giant puppet on her.
Now, were you using Frosty on your queen, or were you using the unicorn?
I was using Frosty, and I switched
Mhm.
it to the unicorn.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Is
Mhm.
I I loved using the unicorn on the queen, and I was doing Hydra before the event troops dropped. So I was doing the giant arrow plus healer puppet combo,
Mhm.
and nonstop. As soon as your queen walks into ricochet range, your unicorn dies like
Yeah.
instantaneously. Um, and so I was very reluctant to do it, but I had finally switched to Frosty, and I was like, okay, it's a little bit better. He dies a little slower to the ricochet, and he helps you slow down the cannon. So, like, okay, I get it. I'll do it. I was curious to know, have you seen the giant puppet able to tank effectively so that your unicorn lives longer?
There's usually so much going on that I haven't really been paying attention. I'm actually, having trouble sort of being able to drop everything in time before the base gets wrecked. So
Yeah.
I think, because the queen is going into the middle, usually following everything behind, the
Hmm.
unicorn is kind of biting the dust.
Okay.
So
Maybe not as much of a difference as I might have been hoping for.
no, I'll try and pay more attention to that going forward, but I'll try and report back to you on that.
Yeah,
But
I've used the action figure a little bit.
mhm,
I only had enough ore to get it to like I think level 13 or level 14, so my giant puppet is a little underpowered for Town Hall
mhm,
17. But the thing that I was noticing that was frustrating was that there's no real way to keep your archer queen behind the puppet unless you're also funneling for the queen and the puppet.
mhm,
So I haven't really been doing many attacks where the queen is anything more than like a big funneler. So it's been hard for me to judge how good the action figure puppet is, on top of the fact that the event troops are just so strong that it's almost
mhm.
impossible to judge like how much of an impact would the magic mirror be versus bringing the action figure puppet. Like I can't tell because the
Yeah.
disarmers are demolishing the entire base, and I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, well, we really won't know how good the puppet is until after the event troops are done,
Hmm.
and
I
then
also think there's like a little element of I mean, it's scaled to be effective at Town Hall 17 at level 27, and there's a lot
mhm,
of other equipment that have breakpoints. That's like, okay, the fireball. If you're bringing 2 earthquakes, I think it's like level 21 through 24? Question mark. I don't do a lot of fireball attacks, so I don't have those levels memorized. But I know there's brackets essentially that depending on how many earthquakes you're bringing, your fireball level kind of doesn't matter because
right.
the earthquakes are killing the buildings. I think that's prevalent around a lot of other equipment, but the giant puppet, because he kind of scales linearly the whole way, it's not really going to be effective until you have it maxed, right? Like,
Right.
obviously you can use it before, but it's not going to give you the sense for how effective it is at the proper levels. So I don't know. I think that's something to keep our eye on in the future for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see after Monday
Yeah.
what kind of effect the big nerf has. And one thing that they did show on the balance changes,
Mhm.
the Yeti-mite, and this is kind of a one that flew under the radar a little bit because a lot of people are using this cloned Yeti-mite attack, and that's taking the housing space of the Yeti-mites from 1 to 2, which
Right.
is a 100% change.
So it's not quite reverting the change they did in the last balance patch, which was reducing the housing space from 3 to 1.
Mhm.
So they're taking like a halfway point here, which it's funny. I noticed this after the change by accident where I was doing a Yeti clone blimp and I missed one of my clone spells, but the Yeti mites hit the clone spell and blew up like half a base.
Oh my god.
And I was like, what just happened? And then the day after, I think Itsu had a video on it and Judo had a video on it, and it was like all over YouTube. And we've tried to make it work in Sons of Guns, and there are certain bases where it was extremely powerful on. And generally it was the type of base where you see a layer of trash on the outside of the base,
Mhm.
then a defense in like the next layer that was kind of isolated, and then in the like kind of middle-ish part of the base you'd have a like a lot of defenses, like a cluster of defenses. And so what you would do is you put a single Yeti on the outside of the base, and then you clone in a line into that cluster of defenses in the middle of the base, and then like rage in the middle. And the Yeti mites would spawn from the Yeti and then go right into that cluster and demolish a whole section.
Wow.
And if you could get all of that right, it seemed overpowered, it seemed busted, and then you would try it again on your next attack, and it would do almost nothing. And you'd be like, oh, I wasted all of my spells and got no value. And then it was, so we had some success with it. We found it too inconsistent, and then the Avenged troops came out, and we were like, look, if you're going to be doing some silliness in the last war of CWL, you might as well just be using the event troops instead of trying to do this Yeti Mite nonsense.
Well, I was going to say, thank goodness that they didn't release it to like the last war, the last day, because at least we were able to do some quote unquote real wars and get actual results before the final war.
Yeah, I see people talking all the time on Reddit and Discords, like all over the place, people being like, oh, why would Supercell release it on the last day of CWL? Or why they always do? It's like Supercell does not care about our CWL performances.
Mm-hmm.
The sooner you understand that, the sooner you can set your expectations correctly so that you can just take a deep breath and realize this is just another month and Supercell is going to just break stuff. It's okay. It's fine. It was only, technically it could have been as many as 2 war attacks in CWL, but it's okay. We all got our medals. Nothing fundamentally broke in the game. We all had access to the same stuff. It's not like this was a glitch or an exploit or, a bug that was live for a couple hours in the middle of the night that then got hotfixed, so only some clans could take advantage of it. Like, we're okay.
Everything's going to be fine.
Right. The game is still up. Wars are still happening. CW will happen again in May. It's okay. It's nothing compared to when they released Town Hall 13 in the middle of 2019 December CWL. So, not to be all old man screaming at the clouds, but you didn't have it as bad as we did back in the day.
Back in my day.
Yeah. So
we had to
it's
cook
like
troops.
right. Yeah, exactly. That's not even that far back in the day. We had to reset our traps and spend elixir on them.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. What else have we got? So another thing with these event troops is each army camp has special event troops in them. So, 2 of them have a troop that will help you on your attack, and 2 of them have a troop that will help defend the base. Have you noticed when you're attacking, and this is only when you're doing multiplayer attacks, not in war, thank goodness. Have you noticed when you're doing your attacks, do you try and focus on which camps have which troop, or you just go in and smash?
I generally try to funnel in a way where one of my heroes will hit the KANE camp. Because I do notice if I can get the KANE to go in, either get hit by my Warden's Tome or take advantage of some of the rages that I'm dropping for the disarmers, then I notice the KANE kind of going ham. If I don't do that, though, it tends to be that the KANE and the Giant get kind of stuck on an outer building or cluster of defenses and just die. And I haven't really noticed the defensive ones at all. And I wonder if maybe you've seen something different, but I haven't really seen anyone put out a special base for this month where the defensive camps are maybe placed inside a ring or not just on the outside of a base. So it's kind of been one of those things where you don't really notice when you're dropping the bulk of your troops if something starts messing with them, because that's usually often where a rage gets dropped, or you use the Warden Tome, or you have, invisibility spells for an RC charge. Like, there's a million other things that you're focusing on, and they would just happen to also help take care of whatever the defensive troop is. So I wonder if putting them in the army camps was the best decision. Maybe it should have been, I don't know, when you blow up the air defenses, a troop comes out in defense.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Like I was picturing, someone coming in flying from outside the ring with a chair, something like WWE style, where it was like, surprise, you didn't see us, but we're coming. And like that might have thrown some wrenches into the attackers' plans. But I could also see how that might be frustrating for people, right?
Yeah. So. For me, I haven't really noticed a huge impact of the defending army camp troop. It's kind of a minor annoyance usually. I haven't really seen too many bases that look like they were built to defend it with the camps inside. I know there's been some posts on Twitter, anti-event troop. And I'm like, yeah, right. There's no such thing. Just like, right, yeah. I'm just going to use my regular base, and, if I'm really lucky, someone will come in without event troops and I'll defend. And that's usually the case. If they're not using event troops, sometimes I'll defend. But if they're using the event troops, 99% of the time they're going to triple me.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if it's possible to not triple if you're using the disarmers. Like I haven't failed since I converted to using 5 disarmers and a bunch of rages and freezes. So
they're definitely before Monday.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because there have been times where I was like, okay, the disarmers split. I wasted a rage or two because they ran out of it immediately. I didn't freeze. Maybe I froze something for a hero and then the hero turned away. Like everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong in the attack. I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a high 2-star. And then it triples and there's all 5 disarmers left at the end. And I'm like, what just happened?
That should not have worked. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's not quite at the level of the Lavaloon puppet, or not the puppet. The puppet's terrible. The Lavaloon troop. It's not quite at that level where it was like, okay, you could just literally roll your face on your phone to deploy things and you triple. You do need a little tiny bit of funneling. Although I say that, I kind of wonder if you just dumped all of the disarmers with a warden in a corner of the base and just let them go. I wonder how much you would actually need to do, because they seem really strong.
Yes, I do remember the Lavaloon troop. It was amazing.
The initial release, while I understand everybody in Legends League was real mad about it, it was one of the funnest, I think, event troops that we've ever had, because it was just so silly. It was very, very silly.
Beyond broken, that one. Even after they nerfed it.
Yeah.
It was the most fun I've had in a long time. Maybe the Root Rider is close. I don't know.
Yeah, Root Rider initial release was a great 6 months for me, because I was hitting 95% triples in war. I was unstoppable. It was so
Look how great I am.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole time. The whole time I was telling my clan, I was like, listen, I am not good. I'm not putting enough practice. I'm not putting enough time, enough research. I am not a good player in this game, and I am doing here are my results. This is what you should be doing. If you are not doing this or better, it means you just stop. Do what I'm doing.
Just spam it. Everything's spam.
Yeah, just use that and overgrowth, and everything will be fine.
So here's a question.
hmm
Should Supercell restrict all event special troops to multiplayer farming attacks only? Or should they
Ooh.
just, you can use them in war, have fun, CWL? They're allowing the event troops to be used in stage 1 of the ladder of the April Worlds qualifiers.
I understand why that Supercell has made the decisions that they've made, right? They're doing this big collaborative event. They want everybody to have access to it. They want everybody to have fun. They want to drive engagement. All of those things are good. Here's what I'll say. I think using them in the world qualifier is insanity. I don't know how much extra work it would have been for them to not allow the event troop into the qualifier. I don't know what's involved there, but whatever would have been involved, they should have done it. 100%. I think that's the no-brainer. It shouldn't be in the qualifiers unless they were going to say, hey, these event troops are going to be available throughout the entire qualification process and will be available in Worlds, which if they were going to do that, fine. That's a wild decision, but okay. The fact that they're only in the first round is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard a company do in esports. And I followed League of Legends esports for a long time. So the bar is high to get to stupidest. And I think they've cleared it. So that might be the meanest thing that I've ever said in public about Supercell, but it's crazy that you want world-class players to invest time, energy, practice, money, because many of them are buying bases. Like, and there's the prizes at stake at the end too. And then you're going to be like, oh, and by the way, it's going to be a speed run for round 1 with crazy troops that require no planning and no skill. Have fun. It's like that's wild. I think almost everyone in the community could agree that, especially when the event troop is just cracked out, like I don't even have like the words to describe how silly it is to have these troops available in an esport competition.
Yeah. Well, I 100% agree, because having played in Worlds with Yoda and those guys back when Root Riders were out. Okay, first of all, we were playing with Root Riders and Valks, and it was beyond crazy because, there's no way that I'm an okay player, but I am not like Navi, Gaku, and those guys, okay? I don't put in the amount of time into practice, and I'm not that skilled of a player. So looking at this from that point of view, yes, it's fun to bring in people who normally wouldn't maybe attempt something like this, but there's no way that a very casual player should be progressing into the finals of the qualifiers. And especially when there's cash prizes involved, like you said.
It's one thing if there is going to be a big community esports event not connected to Worlds and not connected to a cash prize.
Exactly.
Then sure, let it fly. Whatever the event troop is, however broken it is, who cares? Everyone has access to the same stuff, and it's just for fun. To me, it's the second that you bring in the money, it's not
the prestige, right?
Right. It's prestige. It's experience. It's exposure, right? Because you get all these teams on the big stage. They get called out by all the announcers. It's a big deal for a lot of these players, and there's sponsorships and all kinds of stuff available to it, to be like, well, the first round of qualifiers was kind of a free for all of whoever could do the fastest attacks, which is like, that's not. I mean, okay, yeah, in the Root Rider meta, that was kind of what it was. It was 15v15 results with whoever did it faster, usually pushing through. But I don't know. I just, there's something that just feels wrong to me on a fundamental level to have these troops available in qualifiers. I just, yeesh.
I think of, the content creators who have to, host the finals on these things. And if they're having to, well, so-and-so's coming in with, it's KANE and the Devastators or whatever they're called. Disarmers. And here's another triple. You know what I mean? It's
right. How are you supposed to hype up the same attack, every attack over and over?
It diminishes the whole thing. the whole
I think
esports thing.
one of the things that I found in years of watching esports, in watching like all kinds of different competitions, one of the most disappointing things that you can have happen in a tournament is that good players get knocked out early because of nonsense, and then you have your semi, your quarter, and your final have people in it that, I'm not going to say they didn't deserve it because they did win, but aren't necessarily showcasing the highest level of the sport. And you can see that in the fighting game communities. You can see that in League of Legends when there's like shenanigans that happen in round of 128 teams where, I've watched fighting game tournaments, and a lot of times the best fighting game tournaments have this back and forth where someone gets knocked out early, they have a loser bracket, and that person like fights through the loser bracket, and then they get to the finals and they lose in 3. And you're like, oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Like that's not what you want. You want competition in your competitions, right? I know it sounds kind of silly to say, but that's the thing, is like people are watching these things to see the best teams fight against the best teams and put up these competitive close matches. And like nobody wants to see a blowout in the finals. Like blowouts are fun in the initial, you have 100 something teams, and oh, this is Gaku's team and he's gonna put up a perfect war in 10 seconds. Like, yeah, okay, great, that's fun. But to see that in the end because somebody made it to the finals because they were relying on a glitch or a busted strategy that gets patched out or whatever, that sucks. That's not fun. Nobody wants to see that. And I think that's kind of what they're setting themselves up for, with teams that could qualify in this first round that would have no business qualifying otherwise. And you're doing a disservice not just to the viewers, but to that team as well, because they're going to get embarrassed. And that is also not fun.
Yeah, 100%. And I
Now,
think back to, if I'm going to be sitting down and investing my time to watch the finals in the Worlds, I want to watch the most skilled players because this is a game I love. And yes, I spam and I'm proud of it, but I have nothing but admiration for people who can, do a queen charge deep into a base and take out half the base with a queen charge, and then, come in with a Lalo and clear the rest of the base, because that's a skill that I never mastered. And when I watch something like that, that to me is like, I'm amazed. Like, this is great. I don't want to watch the best players in the game spam.
Right. Yeah, I don't need to see Klaus doing Yeti spam with a log launcher across the base. Like, I want to see Klaus being creative and using stuff and still tripling, even though you look at his attack and you're like, how did that work? And that's inspiring. That's like what makes you want to be better. It makes you want to play better and learn more and engage with the community. And that's the kind of stuff that I think is fun. But
yeah, it should be showcasing the best of the best and skilled attacks and
what's possible if you put enough time in.
Exactly. So that people, kind of thinking they're on the fence about whether they want to, progress into that kind of seriousness of the game, they might say, yeah, this is really inspiring. That's really cool. I want to try that. I want to really get involved.
Yeah, for sure. Now, about Legends League.
Let's talk about Legends.
So the thing that I'm seeing all over to the Reddit, which I think is very funny, is just people posting the plus 320, minus 320, which I think it's very funny, where it's like there's an accidental Legends freeze where whatever cup total you were at when the event troops came out, that's the cup total you're going to finish at, which I think is very funny. But I also feel bad for everyone that's doing it. So like that's a hard question to answer to me. Like what do you think? Should they have the event troops in Legends, or should they do, I don't know, like limit them in some way? Like what do you think?
I don't know. I'm personally enjoying using them, but if you really want it to be quote unquote Legends League, where you do have to have a certain amount of skill to progress higher in the league, then I'd probably say no. The event troops are usable in Titans and below. But then, you have a very large portion of the community who is up in Legends.
Right.
So then, because they've spent money on this collaboration, they're not going to.
Right.
They
Now,
want everybody using them.
I have a potentially controversial solution. Okay, here's my first thought. My first thought is that they need to implement hard mode into Legends at a certain checkpoint, which we've talked about a whole bunch. And then what they could do is, beyond that checkpoint, like once you're in hard Legends, then the event troops turn off. Right? So that's like, to me, the no-brainer. Like, if they implemented hard mode at some point in Legends, then that could also be okay, you've successfully pushed to hard Legends, and now you can no longer use the event troops.
Yeah, I think that is a very fair and equitable solution.
Now, here's my controversial one.
I
think if you use the event troops in Legends, instead of getting 320 trophies for a perfect, you should only get like 310. So,
like, there's a penalty?
Yeah, there's like a 10 cup penalty for using the event troops in Legends. So you still get to use them. You still get to have easier triples because the troops are powerful, but you don't get to have the perfect day. And I think because then it's like, okay, now there's incentive after a certain point. Once people are just tripling my base nonstop with the event troops, well, now I have to get better. I can stick at this 0, I don't remember what the total is. What it would be if it was slightly less per attack. It's like, basically what I'm saying, instead of getting 40 per attack, you get 38, right? It's a small penalty so that you're still able to push with the event troops. But at the top end, you would have to transition to something that didn't use the event troops in order to push further. And I think that, I don't know. Again, I don't know how hard that would be to implement. And I don't know if it would have to be like, oh, I used one event troop and now I lost 2 trophies. That's not fair. But like,
well, you'd hear complaints about it.
Right. But I think if you, again, communication and expectations are the key thing in a game like this. When you have a large community with a lot of opinions that it has existed for so long, you just have to communicate and say, look, we understand that the event troops are really strong. So because of that, we're going to have an event troop penalty in Legends where you just get a slightly smaller amount or a triple. All your other attacks, if you don't triple, you get the same amount. There's no penalty if you're not tripling. But if you're tripling, you get slightly fewer trophies so that, people who are not using the event troops will end up at the top just kind of by default. If they're good enough, they'll be at the top of Legends leagues, that's going to be the majority of the complaint anyway, is that, oh, I can't push because everybody's tripling me and I'm tripling everybody. Well, now, if people are tripling you with a non-event troop comp, you can't complain. And if they're tripling you with the event troop comp, well, okay, fine. They're getting slightly fewer trophies for it, so you're able to push a little bit. So I think that would work better.
Yeah. The question is how much effort do they want to put in on the dev side to code that sort of stuff?
Well, I think it's like a little bit of an initial investment, right? Essentially, they'd have to put like an event troop flag into the Legends League Cup calculator. And then the nice thing about it is now they're less hesitant to release fun event troops because, hey, if it turns out the event troops are busted, they just enable that little check mark again. And cool, we have a built-in system moving forward for what happens when event troops are insane,
It just makes so much sense that they'll never implement it.
I know. They just listen. I'm available for hire. I've got good ideas, and I come up with solutions for stuff like this all the time.
We're cheap too.
Yeah. I am not an expensive hire. Just call my phone anytime you want, Supercell. I'm not putting my phone on the internet, but I'm sure you could reach me.
Call him. All right. So we've also noticed, because they eliminated having to train troops in order to donate or attack. So you can just go out there and do your 8 attacks or whatever it is if you're in Legends, and you can farm as much as you want. We're still waiting for the extra attacks to be brought in for Legends League. So, I go in and, maybe I sit down. I've got like an hour free in the morning. I knock out my 8 legend hits and I'm kind of done for the day. Have you noticed an impact in game as far as the social dynamic? are people just logging in, doing their 8 hits, and then they're done? Off they go. Or have you noticed more engagement people in game more?
I think the people that are engaging in game are slightly different, meaning we used to see a lot of engagement on the players that were doing their Legends hits, because a lot of them are like Darth Yoda, our leader, who will come on, for an hour. I'm talking before the training time was removed. They would come on for an hour, they'd pop a training potion, and they'd be doing all their 8 hits, and they'd be requesting CCs, and they'd be chatting and doing all that stuff, and then they would kind of disappear. And now we're seeing those players, like, instead of taking an hour, it takes 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But the people who used to farm at all hours of the day, randomly just pop on to do 2 hits, we're seeing more of those players pop on and do 5 hits or 10 hits. And maybe they stick around for a couple friendly challenges. Maybe they actually request some troops now, where maybe they weren't because they were doing sneaky goblins or super barbs or e-drag spam or whatever they were using to do their 2 hits. Now they're kind of like popping on. Maybe they're using a war hit because it's not as penalizing to do a war army in farming in farming situations. So I think we're still seeing a lot of in-game activity. I think we're kind of starting to see more people also being willing to be like, hey, you know what? I don't have to sneak on before work and then at lunch and then at night. It's like, oh no, I have an hour that I can play at night. I can probably fill up all of my storages in that hour, and I can hang out and I can talk. Like when I used to farm very heavily, I wouldn't be talking in game because I was like, I had a training potion popped. I had super barbs that I was training after every single attack. And if I wasn't nexting, I was attacking. And if I wasn't attacking, I was nexting. Right? So just a constant loop where you might see me online, but I would never be saying a word to anybody because I was very focused. Whereas now, I find myself chatting and saying hi and talking to people because it's like there's not as much pressure, because I don't have to put, like, to me, I always felt like once I pressed the training potion button, I was like on a timer, and that if I wasn't actively using it, I was wasting it,
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot less pressure in game to do that. And I've found, for the last like probably 2 years, I haven't really been in that hyper focused. I have to have all my storages maxed in between every single builder, and always being able to like max out the walls within a few weeks of whenever they release. Like now I'm like, my ideal situation in game is that I max out my last walls during Hammer Jam. Like right before the next town hall comes out. I want to just slowly do my walls over time, because the thing for me is I found if I don't have something available to upgrade, I stop playing. I'll log on for wars, I'll log on for CWL, but like if I don't need to farm, I won't farm. So
yeah, there's definitely an incentive for people to, have to do the supercharges or whatever. So, you need that resource, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. To my play style previously, before this change happened, I always would try to spread out the attacks throughout the day so that I was never doing long play sessions.
Yeah, same.
Now I find that I can be like, you know what? My fiance wants to watch a show that maybe I have already seen because she's watching something that I told her to watch, or maybe it's an episode that I'm not really into of whatever show it is. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll pay half attention to that. I'll pay half attention to Clash, and I'll knock out essentially all of the hits that I have to do for the week, because I'm pretty much only down to supercharges. And I think when supercharges first came out, I think I was actually on this podcast with Darth Yoda, and either you or Yoda asked me like, is the supercharge a method of Supercell, affecting rushers or making rushers worse? Or it might have been Rick had asked me that question. Somebody had asked me that question, and I as I always do, I kind of laughed because Supercell doesn't understand what rushing is and what's effective about it. And the superchargers are actually amazing because they don't cost your full storage. So if you have a full gold storage in between your builders, you're like, oh, cool. That's my next like 3 supercharges set up and ready to go that I don't have to farm for. Where before, if I was doing, the last few upgrades in a town hall, I have a week between my hammers, so I need to be doing some of those, upgrades naturally, which is frustrating. And then it would be, okay, I have to farm a full storage for this next upgrade. Then as soon as that upgrade is started, I got to farm my full storage again. And that was like a constant pressure on your back of being like, you always have to keep farming. It's one of the things I talk about in quality of life changes between strategic rushing and maxing is that like strategic rushing, it's like, hey, if life gets busy and your builder frees up and you don't have a full storage, well, there's an overwhelming likelihood that you have some random cheap upgrade that takes a day or two that you could just start keeping your builders working, because idle builders are the worst. And all of a sudden you're like, cool, I don't have that pressure anymore. I can wait. I can fix whatever's happening in life. Like maybe I have a test or a work thing or a social thing. And I don't know. It's been freeing to me to be like, hey, I know I'm going to have at least an hour a week where I can sit on the couch and do nothing. And then I can farm enough for the whole week in that hour because I'm just doing supercharges. Because
Yeah.
I have 2 builder huts and 3 mortars left.
Mhm.
So that's 5 weeks worth of hammers. So all I'm doing for those 5 weeks are supercharges because like I have other stuff to work on while I'm waiting for my hammer cooldowns. So Supercell has like accidentally made strategic rushing even better with the supercharge levels because now I can wait for the hammers and just get all of those done for free. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yep.
what I keep trying to tell people, where it's like Supercell doesn't get it. They don't understand that like as a rusher, I don't want to do any of the max level upgrades for real time ever. I don't want to do any of them. I want to skip all of them with magic items. And supercharges make that easier. So it's like, how do you think that they're going to make it worse? It's my favorite thing.
Don't give me any ideas. They'll find a way.
Maybe.
So, another thing that they did, and I've noticed this, it's more difficult to match. Like if you're farming lower down, like say, like for example, I'm on my 12. I'm farming in Masters right now, and it's like the cup offerings are so low. Like my 12 is not even halfway maxed right now, and I'm getting 13s constantly. It's really hard to find a Town Hall 12. And are they trying to force the lower town halls to farm in lower leagues, do you think? I'm not really sure what their reasoning was to adjust that.
I haven't seen them say anything in public about adjusting the cup offerings. I think in general, when they did the cup adjustment for matchmaking, they brought down the max that you could get from 59 to 40. And I've never seen a 59 offering on anything except like crazy Reddit revenge screenshots. So I think like the same thing. I've never seen a 40 offer. So I think they might have done something broken with the cup offerings when they adjusted everything. I haven't been able to really put my finger on what specifically they broke, but I've 100% noticed that the cup offerings are in the dumpster. I very rarely see more than, I think 23 is the highest I've seen offered to me.
Oh, I'd love to see a 23.
Right? But
Yeah.
that's rare. Most of the time I'm seeing between like 16 and 19-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'm usually seeing like 8.
Now, here the
Maybe
question I
12.
have for you is: you said that you're not seeing 12s and 13s. Were you talking about cups or were you talking about town halls?
Town halls, like because
Okay.
I'm on my Town Hall 12.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to push her up to champs to get the 1,000 gems, right?
Right.
And it's just painfully slow. Like
Mm-hmm.
very few Town Hall 12s offerings that I'm finding as I'm farming in Masters. There's decent loot,
Right.
but
I think that's been something that has kind of always existed, but to a certain extent, it was kind of offset by the cup offerings being larger in general. Just on average, the cup offerings were bigger. because for years I've seen people question and ask me, like, how does matchmaking work? And I'm a town hall, whatever, 12, 13, 11, whatever. And all I'm seeing is town hall +2s from whatever I'm at. And why is that? And the thing for me that I would always answer, and I think this is still true, is that Supercell has a default assumption of what they want to present you every time you hit attack or next. And the default is they want to show you majority the same town hall as you, right? Then they want to sometimes, relatively frequently, but less frequently than normal, is they want to show you +1 town hall or -1 town hall. And then rarely they want to show you +2 or -2. And then extremely rarely you get +3, -3. Now, that has been true for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it also is assuming that you are going to fit into a trophy range with the majority of the other players at your town hall level. Meaning, if you're a town hall 12 and the majority of town hall 12s are in Crystal 1, well, if you're in Crystal 1, then all of the things that I just said will be true. But then if you push up into Masters or into Champion or into Titan, all of that stuff starts to get skewed because there aren't enough Town Hall 12s with your same trophy range so that they can offer a reasonable amount of cups to you, right? So then you start to see more Town Halls on the higher end of the scale. And that's kind of always been true. If you talk to people who've pushed really low town halls, as you got higher and higher and further from what the average player was at your town hall, the higher town halls you would see.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think with one of the things that I thought might be the kind of root cause here is because all of the average trophies are down, maybe Supercell didn't update their cup to town hall range variable or however they have it in their matchmaking algorithm, like that they're saying like, oh, these town halls on offer are only, okay, I'll give an example because talking about it in generals is weird. If you're a town hall 12 and you're in Titan 3, well, all of the other town hall 12s in Titan 3 would only give you like 4 cups. And that's not past the threshold of what they consider a reasonable offer. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then instead of seeing Town Hall 12s, previously at Titan 3, you would see, okay, for every 10 next that I do, 4 of them are going to be 12s, 2 of them are going to be 13s, 2 are 11s, and 2 are 14s or whatever. I probably said too many. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's a good percentage of them are Town Hall 12s. Now it's like 1 of those 10 is going to be a 12 if you're lucky. And I think maybe that's what happened. It's like they didn't do it on purpose. They kind of did it by accident by not adjusting the cup thresholds. Like that was my initial thought because I've seen that complaint on Discord.
Yeah, I've seen it in a few places and it just kind of threw me for a leap because I'm used to, I've pushed on smaller town halls in the past up, fairly high. And I know that as you get higher, it's you're basically just trying to get in and get your 2 stars or whatever. And I mean, it helps this month with the event troops, of course. I feel quite competent hitting a 12v13.
Right.
But that's going to change. All right, let's dive into T's Corner now. This is all yours. You can talk about anything you want.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to T's Corner. I only have 2 points that I think I'm going to make. Maybe 3. We'll see. So the first thing that I wanted to address is I've seen a bunch of people asking about like the new status or the new meta of farming and what to do. So, especially now with all these event troops out that are basically giving out free triples, one tip that I wanted to give people is that once you figured out your league and cup range that is giving you both farmable bases, meaning you can get the loot out of them, as well as enough ore that you're, getting your daily ore income to be a reasonable amount. Instead of getting triples, get 98% 2 stars. And that one little change means instead of having to manually drop cups whenever you've pushed up too high, and that's very annoying in this current update because you're only dropping like 7 or 8, maybe 9 if you're lucky, cups per loss, which is very frustrating if you're trying to do fake legends, let me tell you. So instead, you do 2-star, 98%, and quit manually, which people forget is a thing that you can do. You just end the attack, you come out, and you only get like 2 or 3 trophies instead of getting, 19. And so then you can do a lot more attacks without having to drop, which...
Excellent advice.
Right. It used to not really be a thing. You used to have to do like a 49% 1-star, and that would be like how you could maintain trophies. And now that'll only get you 1 cup, which if you got all the loot, then who cares? Do that. Just know that you're at 49%. You're not getting as much of the league loot bonus as you could be. I think the threshold is like 70%, if I remember correctly. You have to get like a 70% 2-star to get all of the league bonus. So that was like the little tip that I had for people that are farming and maybe struggling with cups and trophy ranges. And just like Kat said, people have been asking me like, oh, what league should I be in? Should I push higher? And it's kind of like you have to balance how many higher town halls you see with how much ore you're gaining. And that's always going to be a bit of a sliding scale. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was there was a little bit of a post that was calling me out on Reddit.
Oh my goodness.
And there was a couple things that he said in there that I wanted to address that people... Let's see. It's a common misconception with people who have not rushed at least one account. The first thing that he said that I just want to get out of the way, I addressed it on the Reddit, so he saw it. But if anybody reads this and they don't go into the comments, he was saying that I'm somehow a Town Hall 14, and I'm not. You can look in Sons of Guns. My account is always there. I'm a Town Hall 17. I'm basically done. Like, don't come at me. I'm playing the game actively. Leave me alone. The second thing that he was saying was that, that there isn't that much of a difference in terms of a strategic rusher versus a maxer in terms of, everybody's got to do all the same buildings and all the same builder times. So the differences aren't going to be that big. And I will say that the differences for free to play players isn't going to be as drastic as someone who gets Gold Pass. Right? That's all I'm saying. You don't have to be a dolphin that's spending, lots of money on offers. You don't have to be a whale who's gemming everything. Just the Gold Pass will catapult the amount of upgrades you're able to do in a given amount of time. And so he was saying, it's only like 16% faster to strategic rush. And I think the number one thing that I want people to understand is that if you start an account from scratch today, and you are maxing every town hall along the way, you have around 3 years before you will max to whatever the max town hall was when you started the account. So if you start an account today, which is April 2025, you will not be maxed until April of 2028. And that's max town hall 17. In that time frame, you will have at least 2, if not 3 town hall releases. And each time a town hall comes out, that adds about a year of maxing time. So your account that you start today, April 2025, will not be maxed until 2031. And I don't think people understand. Right.
Good Lord.
That's a huge amount of time. Most people will not be playing this game for 6 years. I promise you. I've seen people come and go. Kat is a rarity. You are an extreme outlier of someone who's been playing this
I'm a
whole
lifer.
time. Right. And most people are not lifers. Most people are here to play for a short period of time and get the enjoyment and fun that they can out in the period of time that they're playing. Now, strategic rushing. Instead of 6 years, we're talking 18 to 20 months. I'm going to say that again. Instead of 6 years, we're talking 1.5-ish years. It's a massive, mammoth difference. If you were starting today and you want to have any ability at all to be relevant in the game, you have to strategic rush. That's it. That's the end of the argument. There is no comparison in terms of time to max.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we've seen
yeah.
examples of so many people in the CFF who
Mm-hmm.
and outside of the CFF who are following your guide, and
Mm-hmm.
they're close to max right now.
Right. And my favorite thing, I see it all over Reddit. I see it on the Discord. My favorite thing is when someone says, well, I have my main, and my main I'm going to keep maxing, but I started a new account, and the new account I'm going to strategic rush, and it'll probably just be my donator account. And then you fast forward like 4 weeks later, and that same person is like, oh, well, I have a strategic rushed account, and that's really my main, and I still have like a max Town Hall 10, and I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. And then you fast forward like another 4 weeks, and you're like, I have 2 strategic rushing accounts. And it's like, yeah, of course you do. As soon as you get bit by the strategic rush bug, it infects your whole account, and you're like, oh, I get it. And that's like the thing that I just want people to understand is that you're welcome to start a new account. And if you find enjoyment from maxing every component, great. All power to you. That's a perfectly valid way to play. But if you're going to come at me on Reddit and tell me that it's only a 16% difference between maxing and rushing, I'm going to tell you you're wrong very nicely.
Always nicely.
I don't want to start any flame wars, but you're wrong and you should feel bad about it.
All right. So there, take that.
Yeah, exactly. The third thing, just real quick, the last thing, I have rewritten the guide 3 times now, and every time I have tried to address this one thing that keeps coming back like the plague, and I'm just ripping hair out, and I can't understand why it keeps coming back. And this is among strategic rushers. It's people who are reading the guide, attempting to follow the guide, and they think that they're doing what I say to do in the guide. So it's very frustrating that this keeps coming back where I see people and they say, well, I either have maxed all my core defenses or I haven't maxed all my core defenses. Am I ready to upgrade town halls? And I just want to set the record straight in a very simple sentence, okay? You do not need to upgrade any of your defenses before you upgrade your town hall at all. The only exception is in Town Hall 16, you do have to upgrade your cannons and your archer towers so that you can build your merge defenses. That is the only requirement, plus your eagle, but your eagle is probably going to have absorbed some book of buildings for you, so it'll probably just be done anyways. That's it. That's the only one. Please, people, if you're following my guide, don't max all your core defenses. Please, for the love of everything, for whatever you find holy, don't max them. It's so frustrating. I don't know where people get it. It's not in any of the guides. Not a single sentence in any of the guides said you must max your core defenses before upgrading. Never. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it persists. Very frustrating. And that's
Listen to T. Okay. All right. Let's do some shout outs. Do you have any shout outs?
Oh man, I want to shout out like basically our entire clan for blowing up CWL this month. We had every single clan promote except for our Champs 2 lineup, and we came super close. We had a disconnect that caused a 0 star, and it was pretty much the difference maker between us promoting to Champs 1 again or not. So basically, everybody in the Sons of Gun family, you guys have been crushing it. Top to bottom, everybody's been doing a real good job. It's been pretty exciting, and that was done primarily before the event troops came out. So that was like, wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we're going to have a hard time figuring out where to put everybody next month because we've got 3 champs rosters. We have multiple masters rosters. Like, I don't know what to do with everybody. Y'all are killing it. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to the Rush channel. You guys have put out a whole bunch of stuff. D-Limbs in particular has been doing some math, and I always appreciate seeing people do math and use spreadsheets to figure out how to play the game well. And as usual, I got to shout out Fox. She's done a great job of putting bot commands for some of the frequently asked questions that, sometimes I manage to trigger them. I've definitely managed to trigger the don't ping T bot a few times because I'm saying don't ping T, and then the bot's like, yeah, don't ping T.
Don't do it.
And of course, got a shout out to Kat. You always put in the work. People don't understand that I am incapable of hosting a podcast. Like, there's a reason why I haven't been a co-host or, a host since Clash Tips kind of fell apart. So, like, your work, your effort, your consistency, scheduling, putting all this stuff together, like, thank you for having me. I always love talking Clash, but, like, the real hero, as always, is Kat.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. My shout out is I'm going to shout out the entire RedThorn rated Shiny Gemeralds family. The rated also promoted to Champs 1 in CWL, and they put in so much work and effort. Huge shout out to Fuzzy and Drac and the team there. Mm-hmm. And Shiny Gemeralds of all clans, the little clan that could promote it to Champs 3. So they're super pumped about that.
That's pretty cool.
I'm also in the same boat now. Where am I supposed to put everybody next month? We'll figure it out.
Oh, I think we also should shout out the CFF esports teams.
We should.
I know they have been getting some crazy results. They beat the previous year's Worlds finalists. Is that what I was reading?
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, I know maybe they're not taking it as seriously because it's qualifiers, but whatever. It's still cool. I thought it was really, really fun to see. The CFF team has been crushing it.
Yeah, Yoda and Antinous, great work, guys. And that's it from us. The CFF is a family of clans who love to play various games such as Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and others. You can send questions or comments to us on Twitter at RedThornCOC. To get more information on our clans, events, and podcasts, join the CFF Discord at discord.gg/clashfiles.
Dear Clash Gods, I confess my emotions have been a mess, because you changed everything we ever knew, from witches to poison and the Queen Walk too. Whoa, I've been wrong, I was wrong.